The sky was dark, and stars twinkled faintly above the vast Kenyan savannah. Nala crouched low in the tall grass, her heart pounding. Smoke rose from the distance, and the cries of frightened villagers filled the air. The fires flickered, casting long shadows as raiders, strangers who wanted to destroy her village, moved through the night. Nala gripped her spear tightly, her knuckles white. She had never fought in a real battle before, but she couldn't run. Not now. Not when her family was in danger. "Ngai," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please give me strength." The shadows drew closer, and Nala's breath became faster. She wasn't sure if she could win, but she knew she couldn't let her people fall. Only a few months ago, life in the village had been peaceful. Nala lived with her father, Mzee Juma, and her mother, Mama Amani, in their small village called Olekitoko. The savannah stretched for miles, dotted with acacia trees and herds of animals. Nala spent her days helping her mother with cooking, weaving baskets, and caring for the goats. But deep down, she had a secret wish. She wanted to be a warrior. One evening, as they prepared dinner, Nala spoke up. "Mama, why can't I learn to fight like the warriors?" Mama Amani paused, then smiled gently. "Because our tribe does not teach women to fight. But if you truly believe this is your path, Ngai will guide you." Nala nodded, taking her mother's words to heart. She began sneaking out at night, using her brother's spear to practice in secret. The first time she held the spear, her arms shook and it felt too heavy. But every night she practiced, her muscles sore, her hands creaked. She watched the warriors train from afar and copied their movements. She dreamed of standing with them one day, fighting to protect her village. Then one morning, the village chief called a meeting under the big baobab tree. His face was grim. "Raiders have been seen near our borders," he said. "We must prepare for battle." Fear swept through the crowd. Nala saw her father's worried face and her heart raced. But deep inside, something stirred, something strong. She thought of her secret training, and this was her chance. She stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. "Chief," she said, "let me fight." The villagers gasped. Some laughed, others whispered, shaking their heads. "You are a girl," the chief said, his frown deepening. "Fighting is not for you." Her father stood up angrily. "Nala, this is foolishness. You will bring shame to this family." But Nala didn't back down. "I've trained, Baba. I'm ready. Let me prove it." The chief studied her for a long time. "If you wish to fight, you must pass the trials. Only then will you be accepted as a warrior." The trials were difficult. Nala had to climb jagged cliffs, run across the hot savannah, and face wild animals. Many doubted she could do it, but Nala didn't give up. She conquered each quest she was given, though difficult, one after the other, to the surprise of her father and the villagers. The final trial was the most dangerous of all, retrieving a sacred stone from the lion's den. At dawn, armed only with a spear, Nala set out on the journey. The wild stretched out before her, empty and vast, the wind whispering through the grass. The lion's den was deep in the savannah, hidden by tall grass and twisted trees. As she walked, her hands shook, but she whispered a prayer. "Ngai, please be with me." She had walked for a while, and suddenly the lion appeared. Nala froze. The lion's gaze was heavy, as though it was watching her every move. She thought of her mother's song, soothing, calming, and began to sing softly. Her voice trembled, but the lion didn't move. After what seemed like forever, the lion turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. Nala's heart raced, but she didn't hesitate. She grabbed the stone and ran back to the village. Her legs burned and her breath was short, but she didn't stop. When she returned, the villagers stared in shock. The chief nodded, his face hard to read. "You are brave, Nala," he said, his voice quiet. "From this day, you are a warrior." But not everyone was happy. Nala's father stood in the crowd, still frowning. Some of the warriors whispered that a girl could never be a true warrior. But Nala ignored them. She had a duty to her village. If you are loving this story so far, subscribe, like, share, and drop a comment. Then, one quiet night, the sound of shouting broke the peace. Nala jumped up, her heart pounding. The raiders had come. Screams filled the air as the village erupted into chaos. Flames leaped into the sky and metal clashed. Nala grabbed a spear and ran outside. Warriors fought bravely, but the raiders were too many. Women and children fled, but many were trapped. Nala's heart ached as she saw her friends and neighbors in danger. She thought loudly to herself, "We must fight together, protect the village." Then she saw something that froze her blood. The leader of the raiders, a tall man with a scar across his face, was charging towards her father. Mzee Juma stood firm, but he was old, and he couldn't fight the raider alone. Nala raced towards them, her spear ready, her breath quickening. She had to save him. She had to be fast. The raider swung his sword at her father, but Nala lunged forward just in time, blocking the strike with her spear. The metal rang out with a loud clang. The raider snarled, his scarred face twisted in anger. But as Nala fought, something terrible happened. She saw another raider sneaking up behind her father, his sword raised high. "Father, look out!" she cried, but it was too late. The raider struck and Mzee Juma fell to the ground. "No!" Nala screamed, her voice cracking. Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't stop. Her spear moved faster than ever before. She struck the raider, knocking him back, but more raiders appeared. There were too many. Nala was surrounded, her chest heaved with fear and fury. The raiders closed in. Suddenly, the sound of the village chief's horn echoed through the night. The warriors were retreating. The battle was lost. But Nala couldn't leave. She knelt beside her father, shaking him. "Father, please," she whispered, her tears falling onto his face. His eyes fluttered open, pain twisting his features. "You are strong, my daughter," he gasped, his voice weak. "Stronger than I ever knew. Protect them, Nala. Protect our people." With those final words, his hand fell limp and his eyes closed forever. "No!" Nala cried again, her heart shattering. She wanted to stay, to fight, but the warriors pulled her away, urging her to run. As the flames consumed her village, Nala looked back one last time. The fire roared like a wild beast, and the smoke stung her eyes. Her heart ached, but deep inside, a spark of something fierce began to grow. This wasn't the end. It couldn't be. Nala turned away, fists clenched, vowing to fight back. She would make the raiders pay. But for now, she had to escape. The smoke from the burning village hung heavy in the air, thick and choking, but it was not the smoke that filled Nala's lungs. It was the weight of her grief. Her father's body lay at her feet and around her. The village that had once thrived was now a pile of ash and rubble. The warriors had pulled her away from the devastation, but she could not escape the burning desire for justice in her heart. As Nala stood there, her heart heavy with loss, a voice broke through her thoughts. "Don't mourn for what's lost," Baba Tuma, the leader of the warriors of Olekitoko, said softly, stepping beside her. "Mourn with your strength. Your father would want you to lead, not weep." Nala's tears held back, and she looked at the old warrior, her mentor, and the closest thing she had to a father now. His eyes were steady, but there was something more. There was resolve in him, a fire she had seen in her father. "We will not let their death be in vain," Baba Toma continued, his voice firm. "We will rebuild Olekitoko, but we will not rebuild it broken. We will rebuild it strong, ready to face whatever comes next." The warriors gathered around, waiting for Nala to speak. The raiders had caused too much pain, but Nala felt a surge of strength, like the roots of the land were calling her to rise. She wiped her tears and stood tall, raising her spear. "We fight as one," Nala declared. "We fight for our home, for our families, and for our future. We have the land on our side, and we have each other. Together, we will make them pay for what they've done." Baba Tuma stepped forward, his face lit by the fire lamp of the camp. "Yes, let us use the land against them. We know the paths, we know the secrets. Together, we shall defeat them." Nala turned to the warriors, her voice a steady force of nature. "We will use the terrain, we will draw them in and strike when they least expect it. We will show them what it means to mess with Olekitoko." The warriors nodded, and the plan began to take shape. They would use the thick, tall grass of the savannah, the caves that only the villagers knew of, and the deep ravines that crisscrossed the land. They would confuse the raiders, lead them into traps, and strike like shadows in the night. Nala, Baba Tuma, and the warriors worked tirelessly for days, setting decoys and false trails. Baba Tuma guided them, teaching the young warriors how to move unseen and how to strike with precision. Nala, with her sharp mind and intimate knowledge of the land, laid out the traps. She sent the warriors ahead to hide in the tall grass, while she herself climbed a nearby hill to scout. The day the raiders returned, they were confident, as if their victory was certain. They rode with arrogance, laughing and boasting, unaware that the true battle had just begun. From the top of the hill, Nala could see them coming. "They are here," she said, her voice calm but filled with purpose. She turned to Baba Tuma. "It's time." Together, they gave the signal and the warriors struck. The earth itself seemed to rise against the invaders. Hidden pits opened beneath their feet, sending some of the raiders tumbling into the darkness. Others tried to flee, but the villagers had anticipated their every move. Warriors emerged from the shadows, wielding spears and arrows with unmatched precision. Baba Tuma, with his years of experience, led a group of warriors to cut off their escape. He moved like a shadow, his spear swift and silent. Nala, leading the charge with her spear, raised high, fought alongside him. Their attacks were synchronized, a perfect display of teamwork. The raiders, caught off guard and overwhelmed by the fierce resistance, faltered. But their leader, the man with the scarred face, was not so easily intimidated. He rallied his forces, pushing back with rage. Nala faced him, her eyes fierce. "You will pay for what you've done," she said, her voice low but full of power. The scarred man sneered, drawing his sword. "Not if I kill you first, little girl," he growled, charging at her. But Nala was faster. She parried his strike, dodging his wild swings, and countered with a move she had learned from Babatuma. With a swift, fluid motion, she struck at his side. He howled in pain, stumbled back. "You underestimate us," Nala said, breathless but determined. "We are not just villagers, we are warriors." With the leader of the raiders now wounded and his forces scattered, the rest of the raiders began to retreat. Babatuma led the warriors in pursuit, ensuring that no one escaped. And finally, the battle was over. The field fell silent, except for the heavy breath of the victorious warriors. Nala stood over the fallen leader, the weight of the battle on her shoulders. She had fought with all her might, but she knew that this victory wasn't just hers. It was a victory for everyone, every warrior who had fought alongside her, every villager who had given their strength. Babatuma approached her, his face weary but proud. "We did it, Nala. We did it together." She nodded, her heart swelling with gratitude. "We wouldn't have won without each other. I couldn't have done it alone." Together, Nala and Babatuma turned to the rest of the warriors. They stood proud, their faces marked with battle but their spirits unbroken. The raiders had underestimated the strength of Olekitoko. They had underestimated the power of a united people, and now they would learn that no matter how dark the night seemed, the villagers of Olekitoko would rise. The days following the battle were filled with the work of rebuilding. The women who had once been afraid now helped the men with strength and courage, clearing the land and repairing their homes. Children laughed as they ran through the fields, their voices a sweet melody of hope. Nala, Babatuma, and the warriors walked side by side with the villagers, lifting the weight of the destruction that had come upon them. The village began to heal, not just in body but in spirit. Olekitoko was strong and its people were stronger. "We've been through so much," Nala said one evening, standing at the edge of the village, looking over the land that had witnessed both their grief and their victory. "But we are still here. We are still standing." Babatuma stood beside her, nodding, "And we will continue to stand. Together we have rebuilt. Together we have fought. Together we will face whatever comes next." Nala smiled, her heart full. The battle had been won, but there would always be more challenges ahead. But now, Olekitoko was stronger than ever before. Stronger because they had faced the darkness together. As the sun set over the village, the people of Olekitoko gathered around a fire, celebrating their victory and the strength of their unity. Nala watched them, knowing that they were not just survivors, they were warriors. Peace had returned to Olekitoko, and Nala, who now fully embraced her role as protector, knew that whatever storms might come, her people will always face them together as one. The end.